Election day is tomorrow, and as the polls tighten and the momentum shifts ever so slightly towards Vice President Kamala Harris, hosts at the Fox propaganda network are now publicly panicking and begging Trump on air to make use of Nikki Haley, even though he stubbornly refuses to because he has no interest in shoring up his support with women. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to look at in this video, actually several. And I just want to remind you, Election Day is tomorrow, and many states still permit same-day voter registration. So if you are an eligible voter, but you're not registered, just do a Google search, and it's very likely that your state will allow you to register to vote and vote the same day. And if you are registered to vote and you haven't yet, please make sure that you have a plan to vote, because your vote could make all the difference in the world. This election is that close based on the data. Now, Fox is panicking at the moment because for the past couple of weeks, they were, I think, a bit prematurely confident, which isn't to say that Donald Trump can't still win this election. He can. Everybody needs to keep that in mind, which is why I encourage you to vote. But now you can start to feel the panic coming from Fox hosts as we are now hours away from Election Day. And here they are once again, the hosts of Fox and Friends, basically begging Donald Trump to make use of Nikki Haley to try to shore up his hemorrhaging support among women.
Let's talk about one thing that the president, the former president needs, and I think it's Nikki Haley supporters. And they've been having trouble lining up schedules or whatever the teams are doing. But the one thing is clear, if you watch Nikki Haley with Dave McCormick, she's for Trump. And if you read the Wall Street Journal, which I'm sure it's going to be cycled around, you'll understand that she's unequivocally for Trump. Here's a quick excerpt from the title is Trump Isn't Perfect, but He's the Better Choice. And she goes into detail about what he's done and what he's done in the past and how they work together. There was 100,000 votes in Pennsylvania for her, for Nikki Haley. And I think that she puts it in black and white now. There's no hedging. She's for him.
I don't think it can't hurt.
No,
he has her on the stage.
Absolutely not. And and we told you this last week. She told the Trump people, "I'm on standby." We don't know if the Trump people asked her to write this, but what it says, it's for the people like the ones Lawrence you've talked to, and particularly the people that Brian Yinnis was just talking to, the undecideds. And she writes that there are a lot of people with mixed feelings. They like what he did, Donald Trump, but they don't like his tone, his excesses, or conduct. To those people, Nikki Haley says, it's not a referendum on him. It's a choice between him and Kamala Harris. And then she goes through the list of the issues. And on the issues, Donald Trump will be a better president, she says.
Yeah, she said the Biden-Harris agenda has made the world far more dangerous. Our southern border is our most pressing security threat. Biden and Harris have made it dramatically worse. This debacle in Afghanistan not only created a terrorist state, it signaled weakness that sparked Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Their appeasement of Iran has enriched the despotic regime and emboldened it to pursue war with Israel and its terrorist proxies. There's nothing exaggerated in any of those words.
No.
That is a fact, a ripple effect. And that was not her policy that she recommended to Trump, and it was not what Trump did.
So the reason this is so important is, so they are quoting an article that Nikki Haley wrote in the conservative Wall Street Journal. The reason that they are literally reading words off pages to the camera is because I suspect they know Donald Trump is likely watching. Donald Trump is not a reader. Many members of his staff say he's not particularly proficient at reading. He doesn't like to read. He doesn't have the attention span for it. But what he does do is watch a lot of Fox News. And so you can hear the panic in their voices, which is why their voices have jumped up 3 octaves, right? And they're, feverishly, frantically reading excerpts about how she praises him and supports him. And that's because Donald Trump has not pulled the trigger on this. Donald Trump has not attempted to activate Nikki Haley as a surrogate to try to shore up his support among hemorrhaging women. They are making a last-ditch effort to beg Trump to do just that, because what's interesting is just a few weeks ago, they interviewed Donald Trump directly and asked him about this, and tried to tee him up for it. Hey, you going to make use of Nikki Haley? You could probably use her. And this is how Trump responded.
There's a segment of the Republican Party that likes Nikki Haley, and they are reluctant to jump into your column. She wants to help. She said, if he calls me, I'm there. You guys used to be tight. In the last 18 days, will you call her and say, come out with me?
Yeah, I'll do what I have to do. But let me just tell you, Nikki Haley and I fought, and I beat her by 50, 60, 90 points. I beat her in her own state by numbers that nobody's ever been beaten by. I beat Nikki badly. I beat everyone else too badly.
You see how he's not interested in coalition building. If you oppose Donald Trump, you're on the blacklist. And the only way to even potentially get off it is if you bend the knee and worship him as a God king, the way that, Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz have had to done. Maybe then and only then will you be permitted to kiss the ring. But otherwise, you're basically exiled. And Nikki Haley is de facto exiled. She talked about, so it's just, let me first say again, they're trying to manipulate Trump, understandably, like, hey, listen, moron, you are hemorrhaging votes with an extremely crucial voting block. If you want to win, you should probably not do that. Nikki Haley is your means to not do that. Why don't you work with Nikki Haley? Oh, I kicked her ass. It's all about ego. It's vanity for Trump. Trump doesn't want to feel like he needs anybody to win. He's like, well, I beat her, so I should be sufficient. Well, no, a lot of people don't like you. A lot of people think you're incompetent and dangerous and authoritarian, even though they're nominally Republican. If you had Nikki Haley's full-throated, not only endorsement, but her active support, you might be able to stop that. But he's choosing not to. Instead, wants to relitigate how badly he beat her in the primary, which, quite frankly, wasn't that bad, all things considered. And Nikki Haley, even more recently, was asked about how recently she had been in touch with the Trump campaign or the Trump campaign with her. And this is what she said.
The Associated Press says, as Democrats court Haley supporters, the former UN ambassador is still waiting to hear from Trump. When was the last time you talked to the former president?
Last time I talked to him was back in June.
So are you surprised that you haven't been deployed out to campaign?
Did you see the look on Brett Baer's face, the pause, the audible gulping? I think he was even surprised that it had been that long that Donald Trump had reached out to Nikki Haley.
Campaign, or have you volunteered to go out and campaign for him directly?
I mean, they're very aware that we're on standby. They know that we would be there to help. I've helped with some fundraising letters and text messages and those types of things. So we've done that. But look, we're on the same team. It is their campaign's decision on what he needs in these last final days. It does not bother me at all. I think they need to do what they need to do to get across the finish line. I just think that they need to focus primarily on who it is they're talking to. You've got Americans who are absolutely going to vote for Trump. You've got Americans who are absolutely not going to vote for Trump. And then you've got a percentage in the middle who like Trump policies but don't like his style. That is what they need to focus on. So when you look at these things, it has got to be a story of addition. This is not a time to have anyone criticize Puerto Rico or Latinos. This is not a time for them to get overly masculine with this bromance thing that they've got going. 53% of the electorate are women. Women will vote. They care about how they're being talked to, and they care about.
Again, she is sounding the alarm. We played some of these clips. I just want to play one more as well, because it wasn't just the Puerto Rico comments. Elon Musk and his super PAC, America, and Elon Musk is one of Trump's top allies, top advisors, and top surrogates. They actually put together a messaging blitz referring to Vice President Harris as the, quote, C word. Now, they were making a pun. The C word apparently meant communist. But when you hear the C word, you know what it's talking about. It's incredibly misogynistic insult. And it was a disaster. It was so bad that Elon Musk, who famously will say stupid things and just move on or stand by them or double down, his America PAC deleted it. That's how much backlash they got within like a 12-hour spread. But a lot of people noticed.
They were right to denounce the comedian. They need to go and tell Puerto Ricans how much, they do value them. They need to tell Latinos that, but they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women. That is not the way to win people who are concerned about Trump's style.
No, it's not. Again, she's right. I mean, at Madison Square Garden, they referred, I think, to Secretary Hillary Clinton as a son of a bitch. They refer to either Secretary Clinton or Vice President Harris as the Antichrist. Yes, they cast aspersions that she had pimp handlers, suggesting that she's a prostitute, which is something that we've been hearing quite a bit from the Trump campaign. This is why Nikki Haley's sounding the alarm. And it's also why Fox and Friends is sounding the alarm as well. And Donald Trump seems to be plugging his ears and ignoring it. And for Democrats, that's really good, right? Because that could be outcome determinative. Trump's stupidity, his recalcitrance, his ego, his vanity at the notion that he needs to court support from people who previously challenged him and that he alone is not sufficient to win. But again, the election is still particularly close. The data show that Trump could win, even with this failed strategy, that the headwinds are so against incumbents, not just here in America, but across the world. Donald Trump could win, which is why we can't be complacent. Again, if you're an eligible voter, please make a plan to vote. You still have time to do so. Even if you're not registered, again, many states permit same-day voter registration. Just do a Google search and find out. But yeah, the concern, the fear from Fox is palpable, and it's something I think we should note, because that means that they know deep down their victory is not certain either. And that means we really do have a fighting chance of winning this election. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.